Hello guys, this is your friend. And we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Genius Naruto and Ino Yamanaka is Loving Moment at Academy Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Lunch ended and the newly graduated genin all filed back inside of the classroom to find that there was a group of adults already there waiting on them. Team 10 decided that now was as good a time as any to start working like a team and sat in the same row next to each other while most of the others were still spread out around the classroom. After everyone re-entered, Uruka took the front of the class again. Alright everyone, Uruka started, the men and women standing before you are your Junin sensei for your duration as genin. Remember to work hard and remember everything you've learned through your time here in the academy. With that, the Junin started going down the line taking their teams away by the number indicated. Team 8. A beautiful raven-haired woman with remarkable red eyes said. She had on a mesh blouse with one long sleeve and a missing other underneath a broad, bandage-looking material that had a pattern of thorns on it. She had bandages wrapped around her upper thighs and her hands up to her elbows. I'm your Junin instructor, Yuhi Kurenai, come with me and we'll get started. Kiba, Hinata, and Shino all stood up and walked out of the room with the woman when Sakura stood up. You skipped Team 7. What about our sensei? All of the remaining Junin shook their heads with amusement etched on their faces as the next man stepped forward. You guys are going to be waiting a while for him to show up. Anyway, Team 10, I'm Sarutobi Asuma and I'm your sensei, so follow me. Naruto, Ino, and Shikamaru stood up and followed him out with Shikamaru giving a small wave to Choji before they left for luck to him and how he would fare on his own team. Shikamaru was still worried about leaving his oldest friend like that all on his own, but he had to worry about himself at the moment and how he was going to do on his own team. Naruto looked at the bearded man they were following oddly, as if he were supposed to be familiar or something. Hey, have we met before? Naruto asked with his eyes closed in confusion. The man chuckled at the diminutive blonde. Hey, what's funny? You must not have a very good short-term memory, kid. The man said as they started walking outside. When he saw Naruto's face scrunch up in thought, we met yesterday, kid. You were outside of the Hokage Tower and ran into me after messing with my nephew. Huh. Naruto was still confused before he started piecing together what Asuma had just said along with his last name. Wait, you're Konohamaru's uncle. Then that means you're the Hokage's son, right? Asuma sighed. Well, that's not what we were really talking about, but yes, I am the Hokage's son. Wow. Naruto said with a grin on his face, so you must be like a younger, more awesome version of Hokage Gigi, right? Asuma broke into laughter at hearing that. If nothing else, Naruto was going to be entertaining to have around on his team. Well, I don't really know about that. I don't even fight anything like the old man, to be quite honest with you, but I do in my own humble opinion think I'm quite strong. Ino gave Naruto a chiding look. Naruto, why would you call Hokage-sama that? That's disrespectful to his status in the village. Naruto shrugged. It's just what I've always called him. Ever since I was a little kid I've been calling him Hokage Gigi whenever he came to see me and he never corrected me on it, so I guess he liked it or something. Now Shikamaru and Ino had something else to think about. Why did the Hokage spend that much time with Naruto when he was little? Sure, he was an orphan and everything, but for Naruto to be comfortable about calling the man such a familiar name in passing, that's a whole different level of acquaintance. The newly minted Team 10 kept following their Junin commander as he walked them about all the way to a training field where he instructed them to sit down in the grass under the shade of a tree while he leaned against the trunk. Shikamaru acquiesced far too easily for Ino's tastes when he plopped right down on his back and looked up at the sun poking through the leaves vacantly. Naruto swiftly did as he was told as well, just staying seated normally on the ground. Ino did so reluctantly and sat with her knees pulled to her chest as they all looked at their sensei reach into one of his flak jacket's pockets and pull out a cigarette. Ino watched him distastefully as he stuck the cigarette in his mouth. Those will kill you, you know. Asuma smirked and pulled out a lighter to spark his cigarette up. Girl, I think you'll find after you've been doing this for a while that compared to being a ninja, a little smoke can't even come close to being anywhere near as dangerous. He took a moment to enjoy his cigarette for a moment, taking in the expressions his genin all wore. Ino was calm, yet she had an air of annoyance about her. Apparently she wasn't as pleased with her team selection, or her sensei if the way she was lightly glaring at him and his cigarette was any indication, as she would have liked to be, but she was willing to deal. That was good. Shikamaru didn't seem to care either way. He was just waiting for whatever it was he was supposed to do apparently before he decided whether or not it was worth the trouble of actually doing it. This kid would need some serious motivation if he was to end up any good kind of ninja. He didn't appear to be as out of it as he looked while gazing up at the clouds. It was clear he was still paying attention. Naruto was barely able to hide his excitement. He was hardly able to sit still, and every few moments you could see a huge grin threatening to peek through his already happy expression. Well, there was clearly no lack of motivation in him, and he didn't seem to have any problems with the way the teams panned out. He was just happy as a clam to even be there at all. All right, Asuma thought to himself, enough of the silent contemplation. Asuma tapped the ashes off of the end of his cigarette. From this day forward I'll be your Junin sensei. You will train under me, take missions under me, and I will be responsible for all of your well-beings from this point forward. He saw their faces receive that information, and now for the fun part. He thought with a smirk, that is, after you pass your final test to become genin. Ino looked at him with a cocked brow. Wait, I thought we already did that. We just got through with graduation, didn't we? Asuma chuckled. Come on. Anyone can reel off a few memorized test answers and crank out the most basic level jutsu that pretty much any ninja can do, right? After he said that, a sweat drop formed on his head when Ino's eyes turned to Naruto and Shikamaru, who laughed nervously and muttered, troublesome, respectively, right? Never mind. Well, regardless, that was just to scout out prospective candidates that actually end up being ninja. The truth is that there's a 66% average failure rate for kids at your level. Naruto's eyes widened. That's why Shiho-chan almost ended up not being a real ninja after all. Why didn't she tell me? Both Shikamaru and Ino looked at him in surprise after his outburst. As a matter of fact, why didn't Tenten tell me? Gah, I'm pissed. Asuma nodded. You say almost. So I assume she was one of the lucky ones that didn't end up having to be sent back somehow. She must have gotten someone to actively apprentice her. But most shinobi don't have the time for that, or they don't have anyone they're actually interested in enough to go through that pain in the process for, so the failed ones usually end up heading back to the academy or in a lot of cases washing out altogether. He let silence settle over the field before sighing, getting the full attention of the group of kids. You know, I talked about it with Hokage-sama beforehand, and I have to tell you all, just to be fair to you, I don't really want a team. He surprised them. I have the freedom to make the test to pass you as tough or as easy as I want it to be, and I'm going to come up with something you'll never be able to pass. A task a full-fledged Junin would have to take a second thought at accepting. He exuded the minutest trace of killing intent he could to enforce his threat, and seeing Ino's eyes quiver, he had to hold himself back from breaking his straight face. That's not fair. Naruto said loudly from the ground. You can't do that to us just because you're a lazy ass. Hearing Naruto say something brought something out of Ino. Yeah, even Shikamaru wouldn't be lazy enough to do something like that. Tough. Asuma said, shutting them both down. I'm a Junin, an elite. I've earned my spot 10 times over, and I'd much rather not have to spend the next 5 years wiping noses and powdering bottoms. Even Shikamaru was fully attentive by this point. The normally lazy pineapple-haired boy sat up and stared Asuma down. So you're going to just drop us? You led us all the way out here just to tell us you're failing us like that? Just getting rid of all of us? No, Asuma said to him. I never said I was going to just get rid of you. I said I never wanted a team, not that I never wanted to train anyone. I'm willing to take only one of you as an apprentice. The others are out of luck. All three of them looked at each other before Ino spoke up. Which one of us? Asuma smirked. That's up to all of you. I don't know the first thing about either one of you, so how would I know? All I know is that I don't want any weak little tag along. I want the best. Ino smirked back at him and flipped her ponytail back. Well, I can tell you that I am the best. My academy grades were twice as good as both of theirs were, probably combined. Yeah, Asuma said dryly, that doesn't really mean a damn thing to me. You could pass with flying colors and still be shit for a shinobi, just like you could have barely graduated by the skin of your teeth and wind up being the best there ever was. What happened there doesn't mean anything to me now. Ino shirked back at that. Naruto spoke next. So, what happens now? Asuma started walking away. Meet me back here in 3 hours. In that time I'll come up with a way to determine which out of all of you is worth being a genin. With that he vanished from the training field in a whirlwind of leaves, leaving 3 bewildered youngsters on their own. XXX. Meanwhile, Konohagakure Ninja Academy. The only team still remaining in the room was the group of Team 7, who were getting increasingly agitated by the wait for their sensei. Sasuke and Sakura were absurdly bored and could have actually been doing stuff with their time, and Choji was running out of food to munch on. This guy was taking so long. The door finally slid open. Sorry I'm late, a black cat crossed my path and I had to take the long way around to get here. A man with gravity-defying silver hair in regular Junin garb and a face mask with his headband covering one eye stuck his head in the door with an expression that appeared to be him smiling. He opened his one eye and looked at the 3 with a bored expression on his face. My first impression of this group, you all are not quite what I was expecting. Meet me on the roof in 5 minutes. With that he disappeared in a puff of smoke. The faces upon hearing his lame excuse twisted in confusion once they processed his later words. Sakura looked at both of her teammates. What did he mean were not what he expected. Choji simply shrugged before Sasuke stood up. Sasuke said before putting his hands in his pockets, let's just go. Choji nodded and put up his snacks before following Sasuke out while Sakura sat there, still puzzled at her new sensei's first words to the team. XXX. What the hell? Naruto wondered as he walked the streets by himself to wait out Asuma's timeframe. Did this kind of thing happen to Shiho-chan? Did her Junin sensei not want to do this either and just got rid of the whole team because they could? I can't let it end like this. I can't just go back to the academy because of this. Naruto clenched his fists so hard his knuckles turned white. Maybe he'll take me as his apprentice. Maybe if I show I'm more awesome than the others he'll take me as a student. He has to. It's my only chance. But how am I supposed to prove it? Naruto kept walking for a moment before he steeled his eyes and headed back towards the training field they had met with Asuma on. XXX. Naruto returned to the field to find Ino and Shikamaru already there, the former glaring at the latter as he sat against a tree with his eyes closed. Naruto. Shikamaru said before yawning, we've been waiting on you to show up. Naruto gulped before he began walking towards the tree. Yeah. I'm here. He looked from Shikamaru to Ino, who was splitting her time from glaring at Shikamaru to glaring at Naruto. I thought I'd get here early and get some time to think before everyone else showed up. I guess that plan was good enough for everybody to use too, huh? Shikamaru shrugged. Well, I never really left. I just waited until you guys all did and then I came back. This is a good spot. Ino stomped back here a few minutes before you did actually. So how are we going to do this? Naruto asked more to himself than to anyone else as he made his way under the tree with the others, but Ino heard and picked up on it. There's no way I'm going back to the academy now. Not after all I've done to get out of there. If this is how it's got to be, then I'm not just letting this pass me by. Ino said, voice full of determination, so if I have to prove it, I will. No you're not, Shikamaru said, his voice having lost the disinterested tone from before to take on a more hardened one that showed he was actually serious. Neither of you are actually. He said, directing his gaze to Naruto to make sure he got the message. Ino smirked. So what are you going to do? Beat us both and take it for yourself, Shikamaru. That seems like too much work for someone like you. Naruto tensed up his muscles and spoke animatedly. I'm not going to fail, I can't. Not now. Not after all of this, Dadbao. I won't go back. If I have to fight you guys, I will. Shikamaru stood up from his spot on the tree. Well, you see, no one's going to be fighting anyone at all. He made a gesture of antlers on the top of his head and let a smile cross his face when he saw Naruto and Ino mimic his action. Kujimane no Jutsu, Shadow Possession Jutsu, complete. Ino's eyes had panic in them. What is this, Shikamaru? She said frantically. Naruto struggled but couldn't move an inch. I can't move. Shikamaru put his hands down. This is my jutsu, now listen up. We're not going to be fighting. None of us are. Why would they give that guy a team if he could just fail us for something stupid like, he didn't want a team? Just because he has tenure or something doesn't mean he can just ruin someone's career before they even start. But what if he can? Ino said, I can't fail. My entire family would be totally ashamed of me. Naruto's eyes widened. He never said he would flat out fail us though. He said he would give us an exam we couldn't pass, but he didn't say anything about failing anyone just like that. Exactly. Shikamaru said, smiling at Naruto for pulling that answer out. So, as troublesome as it is, all we have to do is pass his exam and that should be that. Ino wasn't convinced. But what if we can't? He said that a Junin would have trouble with what he was going to end up making us do. How can you be so sure we'll get through it? Shikamaru let go of his jutsu, because there are 3 of us. A single Junin might have trouble with whatever he makes us do, but 3 of us can more than likely handle anything he'll make us do. He kept looking between them in case anyone planned on attacking anyway, but calmed down when no one did after a minute. Okay. Naruto finally said, we're Team 10, aren't we? Naruto said with a slight laugh, we're not supposed to be fighting anyway, and Shikamaru's right, we can take whatever that chain-smoking Tem has planned for us. Ino sighed in resignation, alright, sure, we'll work together, but if we end up all being sent back to the academy for this, I'm going to spend the next year making your lives a living hell. Got that? Her tough facade dropped as she slinked down against the tree that Shikamaru had been sitting against for the longest time. So what are we going to do? Shikamaru kneeled down in the shade of the tree in a weird position with his hands forming a circle with his fingers with his eyes closed. Naruto and Ino looked at him strangely before looking at each other. Naruto whispered to his fellow blonde loudly, what is he doing? Ino shook her head, I don't have a clue. Just wait. Naruto's whispers grew harsher. We don't have time to wait. That Asuma guy is going to be here in 10 minutes, he's a Junin, and he's Hokage Gigi's son. That has to mean he's strong as hell. Well, what do you want me to do? Ino whispered back just as harshly, still trying to whisper though so as not to disturb whatever Shikamaru was doing. I don't know the first thing about the guy. Or any of you for that matter. Oh man. Naruto continued to whisper as he moved around in place nervously, we're going to get our asses killed by this guy and then we're going to go back to the academy, and I'm going to have to sit through those boring lectures for another year. I don't think I can do it. Ino started crying anime tears, I don't either. I can't be the only one of my friends this year to go back to the academy, that's a popularity killer for sure. I'll be a social untouchable Naruto, just like you. No offense. No, I don't blame you. Naruto said, crying just as equally as Ino was, I wouldn't want that either, and if that would happen to you, what would happen to me? I don't think I can sink much lower, Ino, and I don't feel like finding out if I can either. What are we going to do, Naruto? Ino grabbed the collar of his jacket tightly. I don't know. Naruto replied just as desperately. Both of them hugged the other and started sobbing loudly. Shikamaru's eyes opened up. Alright, I have a plan. He almost had his eyes bug out of his head when he noticed Ino and Naruto holding each other and crying inconsolably. Guys. Shikamaru said, Not getting a single response from them, guys. He said a bit louder before muttering troublesome and trying again, guys. Naruto and Ino noticed he was finally back to paying attention and proceeded to let go of each other nonchalantly as if nothing had happened. Shikamaru stood up. Alright, if we're going to do this then we need to know what the others are good at, so I'll go first. I'm not really much for fighting, I'd rather sleep or play shogi than do something so troublesome, but if I had to I would say that my best thing is XXX. Hokage Tower, Hokage's office. A knock came at the door of the Hokage's office. Enter. Hiruzen said, placing some paperwork to the side to pay attention to his guest. The door opened to reveal Kakashi poking his head in. Ah, Kakashi, I was actually expecting you to come here at some point, but don't tell me you finished your test this early. Kakashi gave the man an eye smile. No, Hokage-sama, I decided I would wait until tomorrow, let them sweat it out a bit. Also, it seemed like more fun to let them dangle than to get it over with. Hiruzen shook his head at the masked man's relaxed attitude. Are you actually going to pass your team this year, Kakashi? You have a lot you could actually pass down to the youngsters if you ever actually chose to. Kakashi made a noise of neutrality. Maybe. It's up to them whether or not they pass, so who knows. Speaking of my team, I thought I was supposed to get Naruto Uzumaki to even out the team with Sasuke and Sakura. Hiruzen nodded. You were, until Asuma personally requested him yesterday. He hadn't made a request and you didn't really ask for Naruto, he was to be placed there to balance things out. I know you didn't bother to ask for him since he was placed here, but you could have asked for him yourself to keep him. Hell, Sasuke was already guaranteed to be on your team regardless, so you could have reserved Naruto. A smirk then crossed the grizzled old warrior's face. You could have even shown up today before teams were being announced like all of the others and probably would have ended up with Naruto when you found out he was on Asuma's squad. Kakashi face faulted on the ground. Damn habit of showing up late. He quickly picked himself up and cleared his throat. Well, I don't really have issues with my squad. And as long as he's with Asuma, Naruto should be just fine as long as he passes. Oh, he'll pass, Kakashi. Hiruzen assured his masked Junin. Of that I have no doubts, so you shouldn't even worry about that. XXX. Training Ground 24. Okay, time to break some genin. Asuma thought to himself upon entering the training field. He looked around and saw all three of the kids sitting under the tree he had left them at. He walked over to them and crossed his arms once he got close enough for the three to take notice of him. So have you come to a decision on which of you are going to be my apprentice civilly, or will I have to fail all three of you and be done with it? Naruto stood up and dusted off his pants. You're not going to be failing any of us at all. We're not going to let a jerk like you just tell us he doesn't feel like being a sensei and kill our dreams like that. So we're going to give you a choice. Ino said, backing her teammate up as she got up to stand beside Naruto. Shikamaru stood up with a groan. As troublesome as it's going to be, you either pass us, or we'll make you pass us. And you really don't want us to do that. Asuma let out a derisive snort. And how exactly is a group of green as grass genin going to pull that off? You'd be better off hedging your bets and fighting between yourselves for the one guaranteed spot. You know that you all have a snowball's chance in hell of actually beating me, right? Naruto grinned. Just pass us, and you don't have to find out. Asuma smirked. Well, that's fun. Because I was needing a workout anyway. You brats can try, by all means feel free to. Naruto smirked. That's just what we wanted to hear. Let's do this. As he said that, Shikamaru placed his hands in the rat seal, Kujimane no Jutsu, Shadow Posijin Jutsu. Asuma smirked and jumped back away from the shadow the tree was casting over the field. I know about the Nara clan's signature jutsu. I'm not taking students I don't know anything about. He said before finding himself frozen in place. What? He looked at the ground and there was no shadow stretching from the tree. What happened? Naruto smirked, as did all of the others as they transformed in puffs of smoke to all take on the appearance of Naruto. What's the matter, sensei? I thought you knew about your students. With that, the extra Narutos disappeared, leaving only one original Naruto in place. It worked, Shikamaru. Yeah, I can see that, Naruto. Shikamaru said as he walked out of some brush from behind Asuma. Asuma turned his head when Shikamaru allowed him the motion to do so. Ino, if you would be so kind as to finish this. Ino sauntered out in front of Asuma in a showy fashion, prompting the man to speak. You all set this up. What was the plan? Shikamaru elaborated. Naruto was to distract you with his cage bunshin hanged into us. That was good, by the way. You even had our mannerisms down perfectly. Naruto shrugged and rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Basic skill. Ino smiled over at him. Yeah, solid clones, Naruto. I don't even know where you would learn something like that. Prompting Naruto to blush more under the praise. Anyway, Shikamaru picked up where he left off. After Naruto distracted you and feigned my jutsu, I would catch you with the real one from your blind spot. You would be dodging what you thought was the real one, so you would be on alert, just at the wrong one. A mischievous smirk crossed Shikamaru's face, and finally we were going to have Ino hit you with her jutsu and walk you right to Hokage-sama's office to pass us so you couldn't screw us over. Ino waved from her place in front of Asuma before making the hand seal needed for the jutsu she intended to use. Naruto chuckled after that, drawing attention back to him. And then, for all of the crap you put us through today, we're going to do something humiliating that you'll never live down in your body. Something like make you look like an idiot in front of that Kurenai lady. Shikamaru said you were standing awfully close to her for anything less than just a passing work relationship or something, which kind of brought up our second way to beat you, but somebody didn't want me to use that way. Ino glared at Naruto. You're damn right I don't want you using that way. You'd better never use that jutsu, around me or else, got it? Ino said to Naruto threateningly before turning back to Asuma with a victorious look. Get ready to get used to us, sensei. We're not going anywhere. Asuma had a look of terror on his face before he started laughing raucously. What's so funny? Fine. Shintention no jut. Before Ino could complete her jutsu, Asuma disappeared suddenly. The genin all looked around. Naruto felt familiar seeing Asuma just disappear like that. No way, he knows that too. How could he have? It's a high-level skill, kid, but I'm a high-level ninja. Asuma said as he walked into the clearing. He looked at all three in a pleased manner. That was good. I like that. His face turned grave. But seriously, if you ever try pulling any crap around Kurenai, I'm going to make you all pay dearly. Don't even think about it. Ever. He then noticed that they all were still ready to fight. Oh, by the way, you pass. All three of them blinked before standing up out of their fighting stances, two of them with confused looks, the other just slouched, yawned, and placed his hands in his pockets. What? Naruto said, conveying the thought he and Ino shared at the moment. Yeah, Asuma said with a laugh. That was just to see if you would all turn on each other and fight over the single spot or work together. I was actually expecting you all to fight with Miss Bossy and the airhead kid over there. Lazy would have ended up getting dragged into it, and I would have failed your miserable asses and sent you back. Didn't really expect you all to turn on me though. That was entertaining. Damn, Naruto said as he slouched his shoulders. I swear I only sensed the first Asuma-sensei that entered the area. Naruto then told himself whenever he was doing anything like that again he needed to send out a pulse every once in a while. They had wasted all that time with a clone when the other entered the area right after the clone did. He knew Asuma was coming. Too bad it was the wrong Asuma. Asuma placed a cigarette in his mouth. I was going to scare you all shitless one more time and then give you the option to fight over the apprenticeship. And if you turned that down, I was going to make you fight the clone anyway, seeing as how the point of all this was to ensure that you all act as a team, so all you really did was rush it all along. He finished and lit his cigarette. Knew it. Shikamaru said offhandedly. Are we done? We pass, so we're done, right? Asuma sighed. Shikamaru straight killed his momentum. Damn kid just didn't understand the concept of cool. He was trying to be a role model here. Yeah, we're done. Meet me back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. sharp for your first actual day as Konoha Genin. Good work Team 10. With that he once again disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Shikamaru heaved a sigh at his day finally being over. Finally. I'm going straight home and taking a nap. See you guys tomorrow. He began to walk away from the field. Ino smiled. Well, that worked out better than I thought it would. I'm going to tell Dad I passed. Later guys. Ino ran off in her own direction. Naruto just stood still watching them both walk away before a smile crossed his face and he jumped into the air excitedly. Yada. I'm finally an actual ninja now. He landed and looked around for anyone that might have seen that before shrugging and walking away. That seriously wasn't cool Naruto. He heard Ino say from a distance away. Damn it. Naruto said to himself before walking off with a proverbial raincloud over his head. XXX. Tenten was simply doing target practice on bullseyes she painted on trees at the edge of the training field. She felt someone tap her on the shoulder and she abruptly turned around and unloaded every shuriken in her hand at the person that had surprised her. She looked down oddly when she saw a log riddled with the weaponry she had just unleashed. You're so lucky I knew you were going to do that, Naruto said as he walked up beside her looking at the log she had murdered. How did you even sneak up on me? Tenten asked. She had been alert the entire time in case one of her team members came looking for her to help them train. I wasn't trying to. I just walked up to you and tapped you on the shoulder. Naruto said honestly. Tenten frowned. She guessed she had to chalk it up to her not being used to Naruto's presence. It was still something she needed to work on. Being surprised by someone that wasn't even trying to do it wasn't a good indicator of her awareness. Naruto glared at her, surprising her. You could have told me there was a second test. I almost looked stupid out there today. Tenten smiled apologetically. Sorry, that would have been cheating. But you said almost, so that means you passed, right? Yeah, you bet. Naruto said with a huge grin before he took on a pondering expression, complete with squinted eyes. But are you leaving anything else out that I need to know? Because I'm supposed to start missions tomorrow too. Should I tell him about the D-ranked missions? She asked herself. On one hand, knowing would soften the blow of the wind being taken out of his sails. It was better to see a punch coming than to be hit with one you had no clue was there. However, on the other hand, why should she? No one fucking told her she would be picking up dog shit and painting fences for missions. When she started, nah, he'll be fine. She figured. Nope. You're all set. She chirped happily, confident in her decision to pass on the suffering to the next class of genin. Naruto kept grinning at her. Want to spar? He asked spontaneously. I haven't really done anything today. Tenten shook her head. No, but thanks anyway. This is the time of day where our sensei has us work on our own things. One of my team should be here any minute to get me. Or do you want a repeat of what happened the first time with Lee? Naruto paled and made a hand self to send out a random pulse to check if anyone was coming. Getting kicked in the face once out of the blue is enough, thanks. I just wanted to see if I'm any better yet. Tenten frowned and placed a hand on her hip. It's been a week. How good could you expect to get in a week, Naruto? You haven't even had a day under your sensei yet. Tenten began pulling her weapons from the bull's eyes in the trees. But I've been training super hard. He assured her. Something's got to have changed, right? I still might not beat you, but I might do better than last time. Tenten let out a laugh. Unless you have a new trick like the one you used the first time, if we fight I don't think you will. I'm ready for your little surprises and you don't have anything new to get close to me. Just wait some more and make sure you actually improve or else you won't be any better than my teammate Lee, repeatedly challenging my other one Neji. What? Naruto said. Lee loses. To your other teammate. He hasn't beaten him once. Tenten shook her head and sighed as she picked up the last of her weapons. No. He works hard and he's clearly far better than he was last year when we became a team, but he still hasn't beaten Neji. He sees him as his eternal rival, and challenges him every chance he gets. The thing is though, he does it every chance he gets, every day if Neji is willing, which means that he isn't giving himself much time to actually get better before trying again. I'm getting tired of watching him get beat up, but he doesn't listen to me. Naruto was surprised by that. Wow, your other teammate is stronger than Lee. Tenten nodded. Well, it doesn't hurt that Lee can only use taijutsu, and going up against Neji with just taijutsu is pretty much suicide if you aren't Guy-sensei good at it. He was the rookie of the year in our class, everyone calls him a natural genius. Oh, Naruto said dejectedly. That meant that there was someone else out there way stronger than him too. He perked back up somewhat. Well, enough of that, what about us? What's going on with you and me? Tenten gave him an odd look with a raised eyebrow, begging him to repeat himself. What? Care to try again with how you worded that, or were you actually trying to hit on me? Naruto gave her a clueless look in reply. Huh. I was wondering when we actually can spar again. If you say it won't matter until I get really, really better, then how will I know? Oh, good. Tenten replied in a relieved voice. It would have been really weird if Naruto had started to have a crush on her. The him being shorter than her by so much thing was seriously noticeable. Well, I'm going to need to see how I do against actual ninja in combat in a few months. Tell you what, if you're any better, come back here in 5 months and challenge me, and I'll see if you're any better. 5 months? Naruto whined. That's a long time. I can't come back here for 5 months. Tenten giggled. No, Naruto, I didn't say you can't come back, I just said you can't challenge me like you have been for 5 months. You can still come back and ask me stuff. I mean, I have been a genin longer than you, and it's my responsibility to be a useful senpai to a rookie like you, isn't it? She said, ruffling his hair and getting a laugh out of his facial expression from it. Fine. Naruto shouted. In 5 months I'll knock your block of Tenten, just you wait. Like I would actually let you catch up to me and pull that miracle off. Tenten flicked Naruto's nose. If you actually beat me in 5 months of training alone, I don't know yet, we'll figure that out later. Naruto held his nose and glared at her. Alright then, it's a bet. 4. Something 5 months from now that I can beat you. Someone like you will never beat someone like Tenten. A cool voice said. Both turned to see the boy with Tenten the other day standing at the edge of the field with his arms crossed. Neji. Tenten said expectantly, is it time to meet back up with Guy-sensei? Neji wordlessly nodded before turning his attention back to Naruto. From what I've been told by Tenten and by my other teammate Rock Lee, you are a dropout just like he is. Hey, Naruto barked indignantly, I didn't wind up a dropout in the end. I graduated, and then I finished the other genin test. I'm a ninja just like you. Neji simply smirked, and you're absolutely wrong there as well. Fate has already decreed that I would be better than you from the beginning. It clearly showed itself based on our respective positions in life at this point, and it clearly showed from our respective performances in the academy as well. Tenten was top kunoichi of our year as well. Do you really believe that 5 months will be enough to defeat someone on her level? Absolutely, I believe it. Naruto shouted at Neji. So that's what it was when he saw him the other day, that look on his face while Tenten was helping him, the prick just thought he was better than him. Well, he wasn't taking that crap from someone he had a shot at proving it wrong against, so what if she's better than me and wiped the floor with me the first time? I'll just get better so she doesn't do it next time. I'll get stronger than Tenten somehow, and I'll get stronger than you so I can shut your damn mouth, and that's all I really need to know about that. Neji actually laughed momentarily. The only thing keeping Naruto from heading over there and decking Neji in the face was the fact that he was trying to stay out of fights like he promised the Hokage, and the fact that he would have needed to run over there, and head-on charges didn't have a good track record for him. From what I've seen and been told, you have no skills, no redeeming traits valuable to a shinobi, and no inherent talent. I'll tell you this once, since if it doesn't get through the first time it simply won't at all. Once a failure, always a failure. You can't change that. With that he turned to leave. Guy-sensei is waiting for us, Tenten, it's time to go. Tenten glared at Neji for speaking to Naruto that way, bastard. she muttered under her breath when he got out of earshot. She placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. If you really want to get stronger, just remember what I said. Don't measure yourself by day to day. Do it over time. I'll be here to give you advice, okay? So don't worry about it, you'll be just fine. She didn't want to leave him like that after Neji said all of those things, but she had to get back to her own sensei. Who knows what the man would do if she were late? Naruto just walked away out of the field. That guy, Naruto couldn't rightfully call Sasuke a bastard ever again. Sasuke was just antisocial, especially compared to Neji. At least Sasuke wouldn't verbally come out and say he was better than you without that not even being the point at hand. As a matter of fact, Sasuke never really said anything about how much better he was until you called him out on it. Neji just did it for the sake of doing it. I'm definitely going to beat that guy, Naruto said to himself. XXX. Konoha Archive Library. Shiho was laughing uncomfortably as Naruto sat across from her at a table, glaring at her lightly over the book he had in his hands that she had prompted him to read over the course of his last few visits. You aren't mad I didn't tell you about the test, are you, Uzumaki-kun? His silence spoke volumes as the only answer she needed, but I couldn't just tell you. It's an important indicator of if a student is ready to become a genin or not. Naruto's glare faded and he put the book down with a sigh. I'm not really that mad, Shiho-chan, it's just been a really long day. Have you found a jutsu in here yet? He asked her. He knew Hokage Gigi wouldn't lie to him about something like that. There had to be some really cool stuff in this library somewhere, there just had to be. He would find them, and then he would stomp a mudhole in Neji's pampas and walk it dry. Shiho shook her head. I haven't had the time to actively look. Otsuto-sensei keeps me really busy logging the books back in and all of the other things I have to do. I haven't had time to thoroughly go through the catalog and see where they are. There aren't that many, sensei told me, and it isn't like there's a cool jutsu section of the library. Naruto's face fell. That would be so cool if there was. Then this wouldn't be such an issue. Didn't Gigi know like 1,000 jutsu? Why didn't he just make some scrolls in his spare time and fill this place up so there could be one? That was what he'd do when he was Hokage and knew even more jutsu than the old man did, fill a section in this place up with them so a down on his luck genin could learn some cool stuff. There was cooler stuff in the Scroll of Seals. Hey, it was easy the first time, maybe he could take that again and get something. Nah, even if he could, was he really supposed to be causing that kind of trouble? I guess I'll keep on coming back and going through this place until I hit the mother lode then. Naruto said with an encouraging smile before a frown took over. Oh yeah. I'm supposed to start with my team tomorrow. Well, I guess I can still come by here sometimes. I'm not going to be busy all the time. Shiho gave Naruto a smile of her own. I'll help you, Uzumaki-kun. I'll keep looking for stuff to help you out. I'm holding you to your promise of being Hokage, and running the village with me helping you when you get there. I should start helping you now, right? Naruto looked at her in awe for a time. She was actually saying she believed in him. He thought she was just messing with him when she alluded to it on the day they met, but she was serious. Someone actually thought he could do it. Naruto gave her a grateful look. Thank you, Shiho-chan. And then when I help you get to the top, I can institute a change in curriculum for the Ninja Academy the way I always wanted. She said, changing the tone of the moment. I mean, if I could end up getting the dead last graduate of his year up to snuff enough to get to Hokage, that would be incredible. Naruto face faulted out of his seat, not slowing her down one bit. And if I actually end up being head of the department one day, that would be all the stroke I needed to get it across. Yes, you will be Hokage Uzumaki-kun, I won't settle for anything less. Naruto picked himself up off of the ground by the table. Yeah, Shiho-chan. I'll definitely be Hokage, he said, giving her a thumbs up with a sweat drop on his head. Datbeo. He said weakly, without enthusiasm. Shiho started laughing like a mad scientist and started talking to him rapid speed about all of the things he would be going over for her project, as she so called it, Sakura-chan, Ino, hell even Tenten when she's fighting, why are girls in this village so scary? He thought to himself. XXX. The next day, Asuma led his team to the foot of the Hokage Tower and looked at all of them. Shikamaru still had the same lazy expression on his face as always, and there was no outside indication of how he was feeling other than not particularly wanting to be there. Ino was looking rather energized and cheerful for what they would be doing today, and that wasn't even comparing to Naruto. Naruto looked like a squirrel on caffeine and amphetamines running around an active artillery field. His every motion was jerky and twitchy and full of vigor. He wasn't even sure if the kid had even slept the night before. Hell, it didn't look like he even needed it, all things considered. He had a feeling if anyone tried to lay a hand on the boy, he'd bite it off out of pure reflex. Talk about being wired. He led his bright-eyed, well, except for Shikamaru of course, Genin inside to the mission distribution area where he saw his father the Sandaime Hokage sitting to greet the Genin and give them their first mission. Hello Hokage-sama. Team 10 is here to receive their first mission as a squad. Hiruzen smiled warmly at all three of them, who smiled after Asuma said that. He started reaching for mission scrolls. Well, I have to say to each of you, good luck, work hard, and make Konoha proud to have trained such fine shinobi as you. Now for your first mission you actually have a choice. Naruto's face lit up. What? What? Is it rescuing a princess? Taking down an enemy fortress? Ooh, is it rescuing a princess while taking out an enemy fortress? He thought to himself. Asuma had to bite his fist to keep from laughing when he saw Naruto's face. Hiruzen smiled gleefully. You have the choice of walking the dogs from the Inuzuka clan kennel, pulling weeds from the garden of an old lady, cleaning out the storage area of a general store, or helping an old man who lives at the edge of the village chop and stack firewood. The expectant looks of the three genin froze on their faces somewhere between the anticipation of the notion of their first mission, and the horror of the abject reality of it. Asuma looked at their faces and quickly tossed a camera to his father, who caught it. Oh yeah, that's the look. Take the picture, Dad. Hiruzen did as asked by his son before throwing the camera back. Yeah, that's definitely going to be the team picture for sure. Do you want a copy? He asked the old man. Bring it by once you get it developed. Hiruzen replied. Now which one will it be? Asuma stroked his chin. Do you guys like dogs? He got three near lifeless nods. We'll take that one then. Hiruzen handed him the scroll and Asuma pocketed it before pushing his shell-shocked youngsters out of the room. Come on guys, the work of a ninja doesn't do itself now. After Asuma had physically herded them all out of the room, Hiruzen leaned back in his chair and lit up his pipe before taking a relaxing inhale of it with a wistful sigh. Sometimes I really, really love my job. A few seconds later, Naruto's yells of resentment echoed into the room. Ah, the cycle continues. Omake. Asuma let out a derisive snort. And how exactly is a group of green as grass genin going to pull that off? You'd be better off hedging your bets and fighting between yourselves for the one guaranteed spot. You know that you all have a snowball's chance in hell of actually beating me, right? Naruto grinned. Just pass us, and you don't have to find out. Asuma smirked. Well, that's fun. Because I was needing a workout anyway. You brats can try, by all means feel free to. Shikamaru and Naruto smirked. Fine, your funeral. Naruto, you're on, go. Ino scowled deeply, confusing Asuma. Wasn't she supposed to be behind her teammate? She was with them firmly just a moment ago. Naruto made a cross-hand seal. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Mass Shadow Clone Jutsu. 50 clones surrounded Asuma, getting him to lift his eyebrow in interest. One more chance, sensei. Pass us and I won't have to do this. Asuma rolled his eyes. Whatever, kid, I'll be the judge of how bad this is. He absently noticed Shikamaru holding his nose, and Ino was trying to burn a hole in the back of Naruto's head with her eyes. You asked for it, Naruto said. Harem no jutsu. Kata no kuranai, harem jutsu, kuranai style. In a massive puff of smoke, all of the Naruto clones transformed into a mass of kurenais, all and hanging off of Asuma. Asuma, dispelled before the memories of it actually hit the real one. Asuma held his composure for as long as he could, which was roughly 0.0375 seconds before he flew back over the trees from the power of his forced nosebleed. UPAAAAAASSSSSSS. His voice carried as he flew away. All of the clones dispelled, leaving one Naruto standing by himself. He turned around to his teammates with a smug grin on his face. You see how easy that was? Didn't even need the dialogue to keep him distracted for it. Shikamaru spoke in a nasally voice as he held back his own nosebleed. Good work, Naruto. Troublesome bastard. Ino was gritting her teeth trying to melt Naruto's brain with her own mental powers. Don't you ever do that again, ever. Naruto shrugged at the blonde girl. Whatever works. XXX. In the middle of her team's final genin test, Yuhi Kurenai stopped in the middle of the forest she was running through and looked up at the sky. Why do I want to cause physical bodily harm to that blonde Uzumaki kid right now? Sensei. She heard a stoic voice call out only to find herself surrounded by bugs inching towards her and a small white puppy growling as it slowly advanced on her. Shino walked into sight. There is nowhere for you to go. My bugs have cut off any retreat you could take. Yahoo! Kiba shouted as he stood next to Akamaru. I knew we could find her, boy. Sensei, is there something the matter? Hinata asked, as she noticed Kurenai's sidetracked expression from before. Kurenai sighed, I'm not sure. But anyway, Team 8 passes. How to train your genin. Tip 1. Determine your genin's intelligence level. Intelligence is extremely important in the development of a shinobi and their skills. That is why an actual test of their knowledge is crucial to knowing exactly how to go about figuring out what exactly to teach them. If the genin is of low quality level of knowledge, this can be fixed. If it is caught early enough. If it is too late, there is almost nothing you can do to remedy the problem. The time span varies from person to person, so be sure to work fast to correct this if at all possible. If it is not possible to improve on the genin's mental prowess, then do your best to patch the problem and teach according to their strengths, doing all you can to hide the weaknesses, and there will be many. Sometimes you can teach an ignorant ninja more than a worldly one, since you would be working with a blank slate. If the intelligence is low, make sure that the information given to the genin in question is short enough to keep their attention, yet long and elaborate enough so that they at least get the gist of the lesson being taught. Another important caveat that needs to be addressed is how you teach your genin. Each ninja is different, just like each person is different, and in the early years especially, it is very important to tailor a genin's learning to fit their own unique way of assimilating information. Some geniuses can be given the base knowledge of what they need to know and can work out the solutions from there. This is the easiest and most desired by the vast majority of teachers. Lazy. Others won't get things on the first few tries, but with some prodding it won't take too long for them to find an effective way to perform the task instructed without too much clarification needed. Most are like this. Then there is the kind that cannot seem to get what you try to tell them, no matter how you verbally beat it into their head. No matter how many different ways you attempt to word it, or try to alter ways of explaining things to them, it seems the equivalent of attempting to teach a brick wall how to cook an omelet. It just doesn't work. Do not fret, do not worry, and most importantly, do not strangle said genin until their fingers stop moving. No matter how appealing this option may be, it doesn't work out. Trust me, chances are that they are more of a kinesthetic learner. They learn by actually doing things and failing until they get it right. No matter if it upsets them or you, it is learning, and you must make sure that they understand it as such, lest you lose them in the midst of teaching them. Remember, there are slow learners, but no one is hopeless. Do not give up if teaching seems hard, just alter your teaching style accordingly and your genin will respond in kind. The first mission involving the Inuzuka kennels wound up being by and large the thing that set the standard for the day by way of amusement. Apparently Naruto wasn't particularly a dog person. Well, that wasn't fair. It was more like dogs weren't exactly Naruto animals. You see, When Naruto took the leashes for the dogs he had been meant to walk, they had a total shift in personality from reasonably tempered, obedient, human-friendly animals, to belligerent pains in Naruto's ass. For Ino, she got the smallest dogs, the puppies, the smaller breeds, easy for her. Shikamaru got the next step up, but they were so obedient it was still easy enough for him. Naruto not only got the biggest, oldest dogs because he was the physically strongest, and it wasn't like he was going to back down in the first place because they were, in his own words, just a bunch of dogs. However, Naruto's dogs, as mentioned previously, did not like him. Once the leashes were handed over to him by Asuma, they proceeded to wear out the soles of Naruto's sandals by dragging him about the pavement outside of the Inuzuka clan compound. Naruto tried digging his heels to stop them, but they were seriously strong dogs, the strongest dogs he had ever met for sure, and they proceeded to drag him about until he tripped and fell, and then they ended up wearing out the fabric of his coat as they then dragged him around on pavement for 20 minutes until Asuma got around to checking on him and got him out of his predicament. Were it not for the fact that Naruto's clothes were so thick, he would have gotten some serious road rash. Asuma quickly got Naruto untangled from the leashes and stopped the dogs to hand them back to Naruto. Kid, I left for 5 minutes to grab some cigarettes and I come back to this. We scratched his head. Well, technically the dogs got walked, he said, getting a glare out of Naruto. Alright, we'll work on that. Let's take the dogs back and get paid. Naruto sighed and fell in line with his sensei as he glared at the now innocent-seeming dogs. Well, Naruto finally said, trying to find a silver lining in his first mission, at least I wasn't dragged through the grass. This could have been way worse. That's the spirit, kid, Asuma said, lighting one of his cigarettes up. You didn't get a face full of dog shit, and in this case you can take that as a victory. It's the little things, Naruto, the little things that make being a ninja all worth it. Small victories, you'll learn to accept them sometimes. XXX. The next mission they ended up taking was a mission to chop wood at the outskirts of the village, and once again this wasn't a very difficult mission at all, just more troublesome than it had to be. Shikamaru. Naruto yelled as his axe split through another piece of lumber. Stop moving so slow. We've been here for 30 minutes, you've only cut 5 pieces. Shikamaru leaned on his axe and yawned. You've got it, don't you? Once you're finished with your pile you can help with mine. Ino set up another piece of wood for herself to chop before frowning over at Shikamaru. Shikamaru, this really isn't the time to be lazy. We're going to be stuck here until we're done and you're not pulling your weight. Shikamaru sighed. Why can't Naruto just do that jutsu of his, the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, and get them to do this? We wouldn't even have to do anything if we could do that. We'd be done by now for sure. Naruto gave him a deadpan look. I tried that when we first started, remember? Asuma-sensei made me get rid of them. He said this was supposed to be a team-building exercise and using Kage Bunshin were outlawed or something. That was blatant lie that Asuma was grateful Naruto or none of the others had picked up on or bothered investigating further and simply accepted at face value. Using ninjutsu for D-ranked missions was frowned upon, but not necessarily outlawed. However, doing these missions was supposed to build a rapport between newly formed genin squads, give them a base to understand taking orders, get used to the way things were to go and keep them busy while they trained to improve their skills before getting real work. Besides, Asuma had to do D-ranked missions when he was a genin, and there was a damn war going on at the time. If he had to gut it out until he got promoted, then they were damn sure going to as well. Kage Bunshin his ass. Ino pointed at Shikamaru firmly. Pick up that axe and do some actual work, Shikamaru, or I swear I'll get Naruto to do something completely humiliating to you. You remember what he's capable of, right? Shikamaru somewhat paled at that. Doing this work was a pain in the ass, but having Naruto pull some horrible pranking crap on him would have been worse. He had never been a target of one of Naruto's efforts in the past, but he sure didn't want the manic blonde's focus to fall on him in that category. A few minutes of work to spare him 6 months of troublesome consequences was a sacrifice he had to make. He knew Ino was bossy enough to get him to do it too, even if he really didn't want to, so there was no way he was calling her bluff on the matter. Naruto gestured Ino over as Shikamaru began actually working and splitting his pile of wood. Ino. I kind of made a promise to some people that I would stop with the pranks. He said to her quietly. Ino rolled her eyes at Naruto and flicked him between the eyes. Shikamaru doesn't know that baka. I didn't even know until just now. You and me are going to have to whip his lazy into shape to get him to do stuff, or else we'll be doing the lion's share of this grunt work until we get something better. Naruto rubbed the spot where Ino flicked him and looked at Shikamaru working with a shrug. If it worked, then why not? The two blondes then proceeded to hurry up and finish their own work while Shikamaru was muttering to himself and chopping wood handily. XXX. After finishing their day's work, Asuma directed traffic to their training field. Asuma looked over his team with a huge grin on his face. This was almost as good as smoking the last cigarette in the pack for him. Almost. He had watched his fresh little genin team trudge through the monotonous and spirit-crushing hazing process known to all shinobi of every age as D-rank missions for the first time, and he truly hoped that the entertainment value of watching them do the glorified chores and odd jobs never faded. He could seriously have watched them work all day, it was that entertaining. The last mission they took was the one that had them cleaning out the general store's storage, and that had just been fantastic to watch. It took forever for them to get actually started, since once they walked past the clothing section to get to the back, Ino had dragged Naruto right over there to give him what she had called an emergency makeover, which led to Naruto screaming bloody murder at Asuma and Shikamaru to free him from the injustice. Asuma laughed and walked away to buy himself a carton of cigarettes while they were there and left the kids to work, and Shikamaru just left since he found getting involved to be too much of a hassle. Thus leaving Naruto to be Ino's life-sized dress-up doll that would not take no for an answer. And Naruto quickly shut up once Ino said that he was getting out of that beat-up orange jacket even if she had to use Shintention no Jutsu, mind-body switch jutsu, to get him to cooperate. In the end, after a lot of griping from two stubborn sides that ran their time inside the store without having done a damn thing in an hour of being there, Naruto relented once Ino actually took aim at him with her hand seal and picked what she selected for him, allowing them to head to the back and get started, where they found Shikamaru asleep on the empty boxes in the storage room. Which eventually led to now after they completed their work. Once again, all three genin were sitting under the shade of the tree and looking at their sensei. Naruto was tugging angrily at his new clothes until Ino swatted him one to get him to stop. He still had his headband on his head and his goggles around his neck, but Ino had managed to get Naruto into a pair of orange shorts and an orange short-sleeved windbreaker that was left open with a dark blue shirt underneath. Ino had also forced a pair of dark blue arm warmers kind of like hers onto his arms. Naruto had vehemently fought that one for a while, not wanting to wear arm warmers like what Sasuke had, but Ino had already granted him a concession in her mind by letting him keep the orange, thus by virtue of that, this was one fight he was going to lose in this instance. It didn't make him feel any better that all the money he had made that day went into getting a few pairs of all of those things, but Ino insisted that he would make it back tomorrow. Okay. Asuma said to them, it was a decent first day. I've seen far worse and at least you didn't fail any of those missions, so good work. All three of the genin looked at each other. Who could fail those missions? They could have done those things in the academy. Ino looked at Asuma inquisitively. So, what now, Asuma-sensei? He pointed at Ino and Shikamaru. I pretty much know what you two can do. You both know your family techniques and I've worked with plenty of Nara and Yamanaka shinobi in my time, even your father's. He looked at Naruto. I don't know that much about you though, Naruto. I know you can use Kage Bunshin, and quite a lot from what Hokage-sama told me. Apparently you can also sense the locations of others, is that right? Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Well, I'm not that good at it yet. I just learned the jutsu last week and I need to learn how to tell things apart better, like what's a door, a wall, and other stuff. Shikamaru looked at Naruto. So what jutsu is it and how does it even work? Naruto grinned at the chance to explain Iruka's cool jutsu to others. It's called Chakura Henkute no Jutsu, Chakra Echolocation Jutsu. It lets me send out a burst of chakra that somehow lets me sense where stuff is around me, all over. I'm just not that good at it yet. If I use it outside, like where we are now, it works great, but if I'm inside all I can sense is down a hall, behind me, or beside me. I can't tell people apart either, and when I use it in the streets and stuff I can barely tell what's what. Shikamaru's eyes widened. That was a very useful move, but it had to take a ton of chakra to use even sparingly. Naruto's chakra would be pushed out of his body and would saturate the air, staying connected to him long enough for him to feel the things around him with it. If Naruto ever mastered that move, no one would ever be able to properly set traps or ambushes against him. He could take away an enemy's advantage of surprise. Naruto continued to talk. Oh, and I'm also trying this cool taijutsu called Nibaken, Sticky Fist, that a friend helped me find. It's hard to learn it by myself though, and making the clones over and over that dispel in one hit is a pain. Asuma smiled. Well, that's one thing that a team is for Naruto. Training partners. I'm supposed to be training all of you, helping you all get stronger, but I don't really know what I'm allowed to teach you as far as techniques go, nor what I actually know that any of you are suited towards using. You all don't look like you can fight the way I do. Besides that, you all have your family jutsu that you're to learn. Asuma pointed at them all. You're all just genin right now, but I expect you all to get very good very fast. You all certainly have the talent for it. Naruto and Ino seemed pleased to hear him say that, but Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Apparently someone didn't really want to excel. Naruto looked at Asuma and all of his teammates before frowning, but I don't want to use Nibaken on any of them. He said, it's not really nice, even in practice. Asuma looked at Naruto thoughtfully. Well, try it on me. I'll be the judge of that. When he saw Naruto shy away from actually wanting to beat up his sensei, Asuma insisted, Naruto, I'm a Junin. I can take it, I promise. Shikamaru and Ino prodded him to get up and give it a try, so Naruto stood up and stood in front of Asuma. I'm not that good at it yet. If it doesn't work right, then tell me. Asuma nodded and gestured for Naruto to come forward. Naruto hesitantly did so and came at Asuma, who had a guard up. Naruto led off with a punch that Asuma already had a guard prepared for. I don't see what's different about this style, it's just Academy Taijutsu, isn't it? He thought that when he lifted his arms to block Naruto's punch and respond, only his plan of action never got that far. Naruto's fist opened up into a hand that grasped Asuma's leading wrist like a leech. Naruto spun inside, still holding on to Asuma, and threw a back elbow low, or for Naruto, at the level, at his body that Asuma had to defend with his remaining arm. Naruto switched to a high elbow that Asuma had to keep from hitting him in the jaw. Asuma then shoved Naruto by the back of his head to get him out of his range and get them back at a distance from one another, but Naruto seemed to have a damn good grip on his wrist because he stayed attached and reeled himself in, jumping at Asuma, leading with his shoulder for an attack. When he saw this, Asuma added to Naruto's momentum, pulling his diminutive frame in faster before shocking Naruto with a shoulder-to-shoulder smash that jarred Naruto's grip loose and sent him bouncing off of Asuma to the ground. Naruto sat down on the ground, rubbing his shoulder and backside while Asuma analyzed what he had just seen. That style would be way out of the comfort zone of most shinobi I know of. All he needs is some size and strength, and only an Akamichi could decisively deal with moves like that. Naruto picked himself back up and went over to sit back down with Shikamaru and Ino. Naruto, why do you know how to fight like that? You never did that stuff in the academy. A shrug from the blonde shinobi was the response. I just felt like going over taijutsu and I ended up finding that in the library. I don't know that much about it. There's some complicated stuff in the scroll and my clones aren't that good of test partners for it. They dispel way too easily for me to get a good workout against. Shikamaru had also analyzed Naruto's fighting style. it seemed to be a lot of short-range offense, not so much with defense. Well, what else can you do with it? Naruto's eyes squinted in thought. Some throwing stuff, and some grabby moves, but I'm not good at those yet, and Asuma-sensei is too big to use that stuff on. Shikamaru's eyebrow quirked. Throws and locks maybe. He thought, sigh, if Asuma ever makes a spar, I'm going to need to catch Naruto before he can ever get anywhere near me. Troublesome. Or maybe I could just throw the fight. Asuma took all of his information in about Naruto. Alright then. Ino, fight Naruto. Ino nodded and Naruto jumped back to his feet. Shikamaru wouldn't fight either one of them, but the kid isn't stupid either. I'll need to find out just how smart he is soon so I can get the team dynamic down. Ino took up a basic stance that left her hands at a good level to make hand seals, a style taught by the academy and encouraged by her father for her to use. Naruto took a sideways stance with a wide base that left his body set lower than Ino's, his hands up in a perpetual guard around his face. Asuma could see this was an automatic deterrent for people trying to hit him in the face, or it was a way for Naruto to quickly grab onto someone that did indeed attempt to do so. Asuma looked between them both. Use of your jutsu is legal, but Naruto, keep the number of Kage Bunshin low, as in less than 5, we don't want to have Ino fight an army on her first day. Hokage-sama told me how many you can make. Naruto chuckled nervously and nodded before turning his attention back to Ino. Begin. Naruto immediately made 2 Kage Bunshin that flanked him and went forward towards Ino. Ino took a few steps back to buy her some space and some time to figure what Naruto was going to do, but Naruto's closing speed was faster than she anticipated and she was forced to punch one of the Narutos in the face to keep from being surrounded. It burst into smoke, signifying a clone, leaving one more clone and one real Naruto to deal with. One Naruto was able to get behind her and made a lunge for her, but Ino saw him fight Asuma and picked up on Naruto's habit in hand to hand, grabbed someone and then beat the crap out of them when they couldn't get away. And she didn't have the luxury Asuma had of being stronger than Naruto or being better than him at taijutsu. She had started to neglect taijutsu in the academy during the last quarter of the year when her dad started teaching her the clan techniques. Ino moved aside from the Naruto trying to grab onto her, but when she turned to see what had happened to it and if it crashed into the other Naruto, she saw that it had instead grabbed Naruto's hand and whipped him around to throw him towards her with added momentum. Ino quickly made hand seals, and just as Naruto got close enough to throw a punch, he ended up hitting a log in her place, signifying a kawarimi. The surprise from her counter allowed Ino to go about finishing off Naruto's clone as stealthily as she could, but that somehow wound up tipping off Naruto as he turned and saw her. As he came back at her, Ino realized that she wouldn't be able to land her ace in the hole on Naruto at this rate. He was moving far too fast and far too often for her slow-moving jutsu to get a bead on him and make contact. So she was stuck with hand-to-hand for the time being, since she was sure pulling a weapon would have been frowned upon by Asuma. Naruto, on the other hand, was getting annoyed. He was used to fighting his clones, and they were never shy when it came to trying to punch his lights out before he could do it to them. Ino was keeping elusive, and while he was faster than her, she was wily. His clone rush at the start hadn't disoriented her enough to get him in close, seeing and as how his clones didn't have the internal makeup he did to let them use his style effectively. They had to be decoys that would let him get close enough on his own. Stupid Asuma. If he would have let him flood the field with clones, he would have won by now. He already used 2 of the 5 he had been allowed, and Uzumaki Naruto was no liar or cheater, so he resolved to bring Ino down all on his own if he had to. One effective way to get opponents that weren't into attacking, being aggressive, or getting anywhere near him, he had read in one of those strategy books Shiho pushed on his during the last week, was to do something blatant that would never have a chance in hell of actually hitting them. They would think he gambled and failed, while really he had been trying to get them to make a move the entire time and was ready for their response. That stuff was actually kind of useful after all. Naruto let out a loud shout and jumped right at Ino with a wide sweeping kick that she saw coming the entire way. Ino smirked and moved just out of Naruto's way, letting him land before letting a kick go towards his body that she knew would double him over. Ino's kick hit home with a dull thud that showed how hard it hit, but Naruto cradled her leg close to his body with a cringing grin. It hurt. Duh, it hurt. She kicked the shit out of him for sure, but he had been getting repeatedly punched and kicked by his bastard clones for a week. He could take a kick from Ino if it let him do this. Naruto held Ino's ankle under his left armpit and used it to pull her towards him while she was hopping on one leg helplessly. In order to keep her balance, Ino had to jump forward towards Naruto in order to avoid getting yanked to the ground, but when she did she wound up getting bullied to the ground from a shoulder attack by Naruto, who then wrapped himself around her leg and made sure to gently extend her knee just to the point of extreme discomfort. It was clear he wasn't trying to hurt her, but he wanted to win, otherwise he would have just broken it and been done with it. That's enough, Asuma said, calling Naruto off and watching as he let go of Ino's leg. Instead of a shoulder block, he could have punched her right in the face or elbowed her or even headbutted her. Substitute that with a kunai and he might have been able to turn that into a kill shot. And then once he grabbed her on the ground, he could have broken her leg. That's a really dangerous style. He was right. He then looked at Ino, rubbing her leg on the ground. He was faster and stronger, but she kept evasive for a while until he was able to get close. She was very good at stalling tactics, and in a fight alongside this team that is very good for her. Not to mention we had been on missions all day before this and we haven't eaten lunch, she was probably low on energy. Once they actually start fighting as a team, she has Naruto to do the fighting and Shikamaru to subdue them, while she can be a fantastic support kunoichi once she learns more of her clan techniques. Damn, Ino said under her breath as she remained seated on the ground. Where did that come from? She hadn't held back on that kick at all and he just took it and kept going like a juggernaut. Little did she know that Naruto's clones kick too, and they kick way harder than she did in comparison. Naruto held out his hand in front of her with an apologetic look on his face. He must not have liked the idea of beating up girls. Ino accepted it and stood up with a pouting look on her face. You'd better watch yourself, Naruto. I'm not going to lose like that again. Next time I'll beat the crap out of you. Naruto's face lit up and he took on a confident grin. You can try whenever you want, Ino. I'm just going to keep getting better. Asuma moved over to both of them and rested his hands on their shoulders. You both did well there. He turned to Shikamaru, who was leaning against the trunk of the tree. Shikamaru, do you want to fight next? I'd rather not, he said blandly. I'm kind of tired from today. I'd just lose. Asuma gave him a deadpan look. Everyone else did just as much as you for just as long as you. I know, Shikamaru commented, and look at them. Naruto didn't look too worse for wear at all, but Ino was breathing kind of heavily after her fight with Naruto. Naruto looks like he didn't do anything today. He'd wipe the floor with me. I'm tired. And Ino looks exhausted. I'd have an unfair advantage and I really don't like fighting women in the first place. Asuma's eye twitched. Alright, you lazy punk. You act like I've never dealt with a Nara before. I've got ways to work around your unmotivated ass, for sure. Fine. You're all dismissed for today. Meet here tomorrow, same time, same place. Shikamaru let a smile cross his face for a second. You act like I've never had someone tell me to do stuff before, Asuma. As long as you're not my mother, there's really not a lot you can do to make me work. He wanted to wave in a provoking manner at the smoking Junin as he walked away and turned back, but it would have been too much effort just to incite the man needlessly. Naruto looked at Ino, who was shaking out her leg. I didn't hurt you, did I? Ino noticed he was talking about her leg. No, it's a little stiff, but it's nothing a good night's sleep won't fix. Though, Ino shot him a provocative pose. How did you like rubbing up against me like that, Naruto? You were awfully familiar with me there, weren't you? Shikamaru watched Naruto's face heat up with a pitying look. Troublesome woman. Sorry, Naruto, you're on your own here. Red-faced Naruto stuttered out a reply. What? I was fighting. That was a real move. I learned it myself. I wasn't trying to do anything else, honest. Ino knew it was a legitimate move. It had extended her leg at the knee past the point of it being comfortable after all, and that was just him being nice, but she had just lost to him and she would be damned if wasn't getting the last laugh today. You may say that now, Naruto, but you were so gentle with how you held my leg, and I'm not sure but I could swear I felt you rubbing it. It felt so good, you flirt. She said with a sly, half-lidded smile. Naruto just stood there, a stammering mess until Shikamaru came over, threw his old clothes over his head, and dragged Naruto away in a headlock. Okay Ino, don't overheat the guy's brain. You might just break him if you keep it up. Shikamaru continued to drag Naruto out of the training field amid Ino's laughter at Naruto's reaction. You should have just kept your cool, Naruto. Now she's just going to keep doing it from now on. A muffled response from Naruto under his clothes came, but Shikamaru didn't bother trying to interpret what he said. I don't know what that means, but whatever. Ino kept laughing and let it die down as her two teammates disappeared from sight. She wiped a tear from her mirthful eyes and started on her own way home. Oh, this is going to be more fun than I thought. She was attracted to Sasuke, of course, but today proved to her that Naruto cleaned up relatively well and he wasn't as bad a ninja as everyone had thought in the academy at all. And he showed that he actually responded to her when she flirted with him. That at least showed that he thought she was attractive. She could never tell if Sasuke thought one way or another on the matter. Maybe. Nah, Sasuke's still way better. But still. No, I should just stop thinking about it. XXX. Naruto and Shikamaru had caught up with Choji, who then proceeded to talk to them about his day. How things went with his sensei the previous day and what he had done today. Most specifically the test he made them do. Naruto looked at Choji and shook his head. So his entire test was a trick to get you all to work together. How did that work out for you guys? Choji wiped his brow. We ended up cutting it really close. Sasuke didn't want to work with anyone, and Sakura got knocked out before I could even find her and see if she would, so I had to try and fight Kakashi-sensei, and I lost, but Sasuke jumped in and tried to get a bell of his own, so we kind of ended up working together, a little bit at least. He ended up tying Sakura to a stump though and kept lunch from her. Naruto looked at him curiously while Shikamaru snickered slightly. Why would he do that to Sakura-chan? Choji broke out a bag of chips. Well, he said she didn't do anything but look for Sasuke and get herself knocked out. Kind of embarrassing to call her out on it like that though. I felt kind of bad, so I tried feeding her lunch, and Sasuke did too. The large boy shivered slightly. Then Kakashi-sensei came out with all angry with all of this lightning and storm stuff going, and then, he said forebodingly. Naruto was listening intently as Choji built suspense up. He said we passed. Choji said cheerfully, getting Naruto to face fault, but then he almost left Sakura tied to the stump until Sasuke threw some shuriken at the stump and cut her free. Then I went to get lunch. Shikamaru nodded in acknowledgement of his friend's story ending. Hey Naruto, what are we doing all the way up here? We're all the way on top of the Hokage monument. Naruto pointed as they came up on a building. We're going here. I have to see my friend Shiho-chan before she goes home, because I don't know where she lives, and following her to find out would be creepy. The library. Choji and Shikamaru both said before they remembered him saying stuff about it not too long ago. Why? Shikamaru asked his teammate. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I don't know. She told me to come back when I could because I would be busy since we're starting missions and everything. Well, I'm free now and I don't have anything to do. Why not? Shikamaru conceded that point to him. There wasn't a real reason not to. It was one hell of a walk though, but the top of the Hokage monument did have a good view of the clouds. Maybe he'd come back up there in his own spare time. Naruto led them inside and let anyone within the walls know of his presence. Shiho-chan. Shish. Naruto recoiled. Apparently there were a lot of shinobi that decided to go to the library today. Sorry. He said quietly. Otsuto, who was seated at the front desk, shook his head at the sight of the blonde, Kami kid. You'd think after the third time you'd have gotten the point. Libraries are meant for studying, that's a whole lot easier to do without some random brat yelling at the top of his lungs. Naruto crossed his arms, that wasn't the top of my lungs. Naruto said increasingly louder, this is the top of. Choji had moved to cover Naruto's mouth as he saw tick marks on Atsuto's head. Atsuto settled down once he saw that Naruto had been reined in by his friends, so what brings you here today, kid? Shiho's about to go home, so you can't get her to do anything for you today. Naruto stopped glaring at Choji for cutting off his tirade to pay attention to Atsuto. I didn't come here to get Shiho-chan to do something for me. I just don't know where else to find her except for here. He replied somewhat ashamedly. Wow. Itsuko said in mock displeasure, you don't even know that. What a crappy friend. When he saw Naruto's expression drop, he realized he had been taken seriously. Whoa Naruto, I was just messing with you. No, Naruto said as a storm cloud formed over his head, you're right, I suck. I don't even know where Shiho-chan lives. It's like I'm only using her because she helps me out a lot. What kind of friend does that make me? Shiho came from the archives section of the library and saw Naruto standing by her sensei. Atsuto sensei, I finished taking catalog of the new intelligence. Atsuto gave her a stern look. No, I didn't look at any of it. Sheesh sensei, I did it once and I apologized for it. I didn't know it was supposed to be confidential. He's a genin. What's confidential about a genin? His eyes glinted dangerously, getting Shiho to laugh nervously. Right, my mistake. It won't ever happen again. Atsuto sighed. You're so lucky, I know why you did it. Anyway, you're done for the day, go on home. And look who came to see you. He pointed at Naruto, who waved to her. Uzumaki-kun. Shiho exclaimed, come with me. She rushed over to him and grabbed his arm, pulling him out of the library before he could even say hello. Choji looked at where Naruto had just been standing in shock, a dust trail leading out of the door. What just happened? Shikamaru had a similar look on his face until he palmed his face. I don't know, that guy finds himself in more troublesome situations than just a few. Choji watched the dust trail fade. Should we follow them? He might need some help. Shikamaru sighed. Yeah, sure. He started slogging out the door. Let's go follow them. XXX. 15 minutes later, Ichiraku ramen. Shiho stared at Naruto as he barreled through a large bowl of miso ramen. She wasn't staring at him because he was eating like he hadn't seen food in 6 weeks. It was more like she was looking for something that wasn't really there. Seeing him place his bowl down after drinking the broth, she spoke up. Uzumaki-kun, I went over your academy grades. Naruto gave her a look saying, how did you get those? Shiho tilted her glasses with a proud look. I work in the Konoha Archive Library. There are records there on all ninja past and present. Naruto seemed to easily accept that answer, and I was wondering if anything I made you learn actually stuck with you, so, she pulled out 2 stapled sheets of paper. I want you to take your written graduation exam again. Naruto fell off of his stool and quickly climbed back to his feet. What? Why? I don't want to take it again. I just passed it a little over a week ago. Shiho gave him a dry look. You passed with a 50. I know you can do better this time, and it's not for anything. I just want to see if you can do better after what I did for you all last week. Naruto could see the pleading look on her face, and it easily ended up breaking him down. Damn, girls were really getting him to do what they wanted today. Where was his backbone? Grr. Fine. He said. Do you have a pencil? The test was slapped down on the counter and a pencil was stuck in his face. Of course you do. Why wouldn't you? He looked up right before he started. Am I on the clock? Shiho shook her head, but her lips quirked in amusement. No, but I'm not staying here all night, Uzumaki-kun. It's almost sundown. Now get started, you'll do great. Naruto shrugged and went up against what was once his greatest foe on 3 separate occasions. Okay Naruto, 40 questions, you've got this. Question 1. Name 3 countries that border Hai no Kuni. Extra credit if you can identify whether or not these countries have hidden villages and can name the ones they possess. Damn it, I don't. He stopped his mental rant and blinked. Oh wait. Yes, I do. Ta no kuni, none, you no kuni, Yugakure, nami no kuni, none. Naruto grinned before he started to focus again. Okay. Question 2. What was the bridge in Kusa no Kuni that was the site of one of the greatest successes of the Third Great Ninja War in the Yondaime Hokage? Shiho watched Naruto work and had many thoughts running through her mind as she looked at him. She had been through Naruto's personnel files to see firsthand exactly what his true strong and weak points were and found that they were highly classified. Why? She had no idea, until she actually managed to get a look at them, of course, and stumbled upon the reason for the privacy. Who would have thought that some loud little blonde kid was the entire reason that the entire village was still in one piece after what had happened 12 years ago? How did him having the Kyuubi in his body make him different? How did it feel? How did it get there? She wanted to ask him this but did not for 2 reasons. 1. He wouldn't know what the hell she was talking about. He didn't know about the Kyuubi in him. And if she told him, he might not believe her, he might freak out. Who knew what would happen? The second reason was because it was an S-ranked secret, and while she wanted to tell him, and was going to tell him right after she found out, she had been taken aside by her sensei and told that anyone who revealed that secret could be put to death by order of the Sandaime Hokage. When she asked why, he said he didn't know and it was best she kept it to herself, but looking at Naruto's oblivious face, she found it hard to keep such a heavy secret from her friend, especially when it was about him. He should know that there was a demon stuck inside of him. It wasn't fair that he didn't know about his Jinchuriki status. Wouldn't that be dangerous? There he is, Shikamaru, and he's at Ichiraku Ramen. Awesome. Good choice, Naruto. Shiho was stirred from her thoughts abruptly by Choji's loud voice once he threw back the curtain to the stand and took a seat, almost surprising her out of her seat. I'll have 3 large bowls of beef ramen, keep 'em coming. He said boisterously. Please be quiet. Shiho said once she regained her composure. Uzumaki-kun is taking a test right now, mister. This is embarrassing, I don't know your name. His name is Choji, I'm Shikamaru, and we know you're Shiho. Shikamaru walked in a moment later and looked at Naruto hunched over the counter working on his test given by Shiho. Alright, I'll bite. Why are you making Naruto take a test? It seems like a whole lot of hassle for nothing. It's not for nothing. Shiho insisted. I need to see if Uzumaki-kun actually got anything out of what we went over all last week, or if I just wasted his time. If I just wasted his time, then I need to adjust my curriculum to suit a student of his needs. She giggled. I actually did have a full class, so it's a good experiment. Shikamaru took a seat in the stool between his best friend Choji and his teammate Naruto. So what's the point of teaching him stuff? The academy is over. Shiho nodded. Yes, but this is a test to see if my way of getting him to learn things actually works. If it works with the review things I made him go over all the time at the library, then it can work with just about anything he needs to learn and he can apply it to anything. Do you know that he wasn't even really there to learn anything? He did it with his clones. This is the ultimate test of my theory on his Kage Bunshin, because I didn't teach him anything on this test personally, I did it through his clones. Shikamaru watched Naruto intently go through his test. So why him? Shiho smiled. Well, Uzumaki-kun is, how should I say this without being too blunt? She placed a hand on Naruto's head and rubbed his hair comfortingly. Uzumaki-kun is dumb. Really dumb. I mean, he's really dumb, and he even knew it. She noticed the tick marks on his head as he tried to ignore her and decided to stop teasing him and get to the point. I just want to help him out, really. At first it was because he had never been to the library before and I wanted to show him around, but he's a really sweet person and it's not fair that no one's trying to do anything about it. With a little fine-tuning he could have been Rookie of the Year if anyone would have bothered to give him some personal time. Naruto grinned at that, but stayed focused on his test. This was way easier. The last time he was drawing blanks all the way through. The only reason he was able to get a 50 on the last test was because of the questions on the Yondaime Hokage that were sprinkled throughout in multiple choice format, some repeating. There were next to none of those on this form of the test and it still felt way easier. Choji stopped eating the ramen he was given at hearing that. Naruto. Rookie of the Year. How? Shiho shrugged. Okay, how to put this? Well, you know his Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu. None of us here could even make one without nearly killing ourselves. Uzumaki-kun makes 20 just to read things in the library. He said he maxed out once before at around 1000, and I'm not sure if he's being truthful or not, but even if he isn't, he has more chakra than any genin I've ever heard of before, rookie or veteran. I don't know of many junin that can say they have that much chakra to spare. Choji dropped the noodles he had in his chopsticks upon hearing that. Just off of sheer chakra capacity alone he's more advanced than anyone else. Shikamaru took note of all of this. Why did it take this girl actually going into detail on this for something like this to actually be known? Shouldn't Naruto's chakra capacity have been something that the academy teachers knew about? That's why he found it so hard to do the academy jutsu. Because it took a minuscule amount of chakra to perform them, that's why they were academy level ninjutsu. It wasn't his fault he couldn't do the bunshin, that was supposed to be the easiest to do because it was supposed to take the least amount of chakra. For Naruto that had to have been like trying to isolate an eyedropper worth of water from a lake or something. Naruto slammed his pencil down and put the test in front of Shiho's face, scaring her. Done. He laughed to himself and looked over at Choji and Shikamaru. That was so easy. How did I ever think any of that was hard? Shikamaru smirked at his teammate. Maybe that's because you didn't have a woman trying to force the information into that empty head of yours when we were in school. Good job, Uzumaki-kun, Shiho said with a smile. You got 80% of your answers correct. I knew you could do it. Naruto spun around in his stool. Yada. So that means I'm not stupid anymore, right? Shiho shook her head. Oh no, you're still really stupid. Naruto face faulted. What I mean by that is, all I made you learn was review stuff. You should have at least known this stuff in passing. Most every ninja does off of memory. But about how smart you are. What do you know about chakra? Naruto squinted his eyes. We use it to do jutsu and stuff. Choji chuckled while Shikamaru palmed his face and shook his head. Shiho giggled. Yes, but not quite. It's the mixture of your physical energy and your spiritual energy gained from physical exercise and experience. It runs through a system in your body that circulates it, much like blood. It's more important than just that. Now what about the difference between ninjutsu and genjutsu? Naruto's face drew a blank. They both do stuff. I said the difference. Shiho said. I figured you didn't know that when you referred to everything as a jutsu instead of categorizing it. We're not done with you yet, Uzumaki-kun, we're just getting started. Naruto lowered his head, getting her to pat him on the back. It's okay. You picked up these things so quick, now you can learn about actual techniques. Hey, maybe if I can get the points of these things across well enough for you, you could start making jutsu of your own. That perked him up. It was true. He was a sucker for a new jutsu, and if he could learn enough that he could start making his own like Iruka did, that would be ideal for him, just another thing to make him badass. Choji spoke through another bowl that he wound up being served. Yeah, Naruto, you can do it. She seems like she knows what she's talking about and she thinks you can. Shikamaru nodded in agreement at his best friend's words and turned his attention to Shiho. So, what exactly do you plan to teach him anyway? Shiho's glasses shined at the sound of his question. Everything. Shikamaru couldn't help but pity Naruto with the way she said that. Naruto blinked as he had heard that from her. Wait. Everything. What do you mean everything? I can't learn every. Shiho pulled a bowl of ramen in front of him. Look, Uzumaki-kun, ramen. And it's still hot. You'd better hurry. Like a switch had been turned, he immediately dug into the bowl placed in front of him. Shikamaru's sweat dropped. Are you going to fix that too? Shiho shook her head and chuckled awkwardly at exploiting such an embarrassing weakness. I don't think I can. But seriously, would you even want to? Shikamaru stared at her for a while, making her uncomfortable with such a firm gaze. What is he looking at me like that for? Her cheeks started heating up at the thoughts of why. Finally, Shikamaru shrugged and turned his attention elsewhere. I guess I wouldn't. It's good to know I can sidetrack Naruto with a bowl of noodles. I might be able to use that from time to time. Naruto finished off his bowl happily. Man, that was good. He then looked at Shiho suspiciously. Now then, what were we talking about just now? Shiho said hesitantly. I was just saying that it's getting late and I have to get home before I get into trouble. Naruto nodded. Okay, the sun has gone down after all, I guess. Do you want us to take you home, Shiho-chan? Shiho stood up abruptly, having just dodged a bullet of sorts. No, that's okay. I'll see you later, Uzumaki-kun. Goodbye, Shikamaru-san, Choji-san. The other two waved to her as she left the stand. Shikamaru sighed as he watched his two friends order more food. That girl is kind of strange. Naruto nodded. A little bit, but pretty much every girl I've met so far is weird to me, Shikamaru. She's still nice though, really nice. If you get to know her, you'll like her. Whatever you say, Naruto, Shikamaru said unbelievingly. Remember, all women are troublesome, it's just to what extent are they troublesome. Naruto stopped eating long enough to point ahead. You do know that we've been being served by a woman the entire time we've been here, right? Shikamaru paled and looked forward to see Ayame giving him a sickeningly sweet smile and holding a ladle in her hand. I hate you, Naruto. Naruto shrugged and went back to eating. I don't know why you hate me. I didn't say that. You were the one that had the brilliant idea to say that out loud. And you all call me stupid. At least I'm smarter than that. Naruto looked into his bowl. Hey Ayame-ni-chan, when you finish chewing Shikamaru out about his dumbass comment, can I get some more please? How to train your genin. Tip 2. Instill a work ethic in your genin. Motivation is another highly important component in the steady improvement of any and every ninja. The stronger they get, the more they will have to work to keep up with the expectations placed upon them, which will grow more and more difficult. Many good shinobi and kunoichi with lots of potential have found themselves swept up by this and overwhelmed, mostly due to complacency in their own strength, knowledge, and skill. There is never enough in any of those attributes. As a ninja, you can never afford to settle with where you are, because there will always be someone willing and able to show you how much better than you they are, and this could end with your failure or death. This must be driven home early in a ninja's career, as while confidence is good, arrogance will get them killed, miserably killed, by some lunatic, miles away from home. So to prevent this, you must ensure that they know that they must keep improving bit by bit and show them a progression of their abilities so that they clearly know what they are capable of. And in order to keep them from getting swelled heads, you, as their Junin sensei, must make sure they know that they still have a long way to go. This can be done by showing them up in some way, shape, or form. You can do this any way that you like, but the less imaginative Junin all seem to like doing it the same way, by beating their genin senseless. But to each their own. They are all full-fledged ninja and you shouldn't baby them because it will get them killed. Just so long as you ensure that they're always working to improve, you're doing your job.